The worst blaze in the country has been contained as of Friday following overnight rainfall. For the past 7 days, it has left a deep scar across the southeast, killing dozens and forcing thousands to evacuate. Silence continued at the Constitutional Court on this last day of the week. A tense atmosphere grips the country over when and what the verdict will be on the president. The country commemorated the 10th West Sea Defense Day on Friday, honoring fallen service members who died defending the West Coast against North Korea and sending a stern warning to the regime. It's March 28th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon. The massive wildfires in Gyeongsangbuk-do Province have finally been put out. Authorities say the main fire, which started in Uiseong-gun County, is now extinguished. It's been a tough battle during the past 7 days. Shin Ha-young has her top story.
A week after wildfires broke out in Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, authorities declared that the main blazes in the region were contained as improved visibility and cooler temperatures from overnight rain helped firefighters put out the main fires. The Korea Forest Service announced on Friday that the all main blazes in Andong City, Uiseong, Cheongsong, Yeongdeok, and Yeongnam-gun counties had been fully brought under control.
As of 5 p.m. on March 28, all the main fires in Uiseong, Andong, Cheongsong, and Yeongnam have been extinguished, starting with Yeongdeok at 2:30 p.m.
This comes after more than 5,500 personnel and 89 firefighting helicopters were deployed on Friday to fully contain the wildfire in Gyeongsangbuk-do Province. By midday on Friday, the overall containment rate across the region had reached 94%, a 32 percentage point increase from the previous afternoon. No additional casualties have been reported as of Friday evening. According to the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, as of 6 a.m., the wildfires had killed at least 28 and injured 37 others nationwide. The disaster has displaced around 33,000 residents, with more than 8,000 still unable to return home. Nearly 3,500 structures were damaged.
I saw the flames approaching my house. Everything was glowing red. I grabbed what I could and ran. When I came back, it was all gone. The fire was still burning.
The wildfire is the largest in South Korea's history, burning approximately 480 square kilometers, nearly 80% the size of Seoul. With the main fires contained, the Korea Forest Service said efforts will now focus on extinguishing any remaining embers. It has also set the period until mid-May as the spring wildfire prevention and response period. It emphasized that while the risk of more wildfires remains, it will stay vigilant and continue its full efforts to prevent and respond to them. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
While we've just heard the long-awaited news that the fires have been put out, for many residents who lost their homes and even loved ones due to the devastating fire, the ordeal is far from over. They now face a long and difficult road to recovery. Our reporter Song Yoo-jin, who's been on the ground throughout the crisis, brings us this story on how the local community is coping.
Fires move fast, but the scars they leave behind run deep. In South Korea's Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, wildfires tore through entire communities, leaving heartbreak, destruction, and a long road to recovery. This is all that's left of the Seokbomyeon neighborhood in the province's Yeongnam-gun County.
So this is one of the regions that have been hit hardest by the wildfires that have been raging here in South Korea. And you can see the impact right here. So if you look at this building, you can see smoke still billowing from the roof, although there are no flames. And if you come over here, there's also this car that seems to have been completely burned down by the wildfire that hit this region. But it's not just here, because if you look over there, there are also trees that have been completely bare. Local residents here tell me that this area has been hit by a wildfire from a couple of days ago. And you can also see the impact right over there, because what seems to have been a building is now completely gone.
6 people from Seokbomyeon died trying to escape the flames. Every single fatality in the county came from here. Lee Sang-hak is the head of one of the villages of Seokbomyeon.
I had just gotten off work when I saw smoke everywhere on my way home. Something felt off. We could barely see a thing. And then, in just 5 seconds, it started raining fire. I rushed to spray water and told my daughter to get out of the house. There were some old ladies still inside. One couldn't walk, so I carried her out and got her into the car. My ribs are in bad shape now, but at the time, I didn't even feel them. No one in our village died, thankfully, but everything was burned.
The community is still in shock. Neighbors are checking in on one another, some discovering only now just how much they've lost.
그래. 아이고, 피해가 왜 없겠어, 이 사람아. 자네 집도 다 탔다.
그래. 우리 집 다 탔는 건 알고.
그래. 우리 집도 다 타고.
그 상무실은?
상무실도 저기 내 집 빼고 다 탔어.
니는?
우리 집도 다 탔지.
아이고.
지금도 연기가 나는데 뭐.
Their homes weren't the only things destroyed. Their farms, their tools, their way of life, all gone.
What am I supposed to do now? I don't even have a single farming tool left. If I found the person who caused this fire, I'd want to tear them apart.
It felt like helicopters were dropping fireballs because I could see fires here and then there, so I escaped in my car. I'm 72 and I've been living here since I was 8. I've never seen a fire like this in my lifetime.
Park Sunok has been running her magnolia berry farm for 2 decades. She's thankful that she's alive, but this question lingers in her mind. What's she going to do now?
I put everything into 2 warehouses, both worth about 80 million won. Now they're gone. My heart is still pounding. There's no electricity, no water, and nothing to eat. Our magnolia berries? Completely burned.
Relief supplies are arriving. Food, water, and clothes. In neighboring Andong, thousands have evacuated to shelters like this city gymnasium.
I was a farmer. Now, I have nothing but my pension. We grew apples and magnolia berries. All of it burned. Everything's gone.
I never imagined something like this could happen to me. Only on TV. Never here.
This disaster shelter offers tents, meals, bedding, and counseling for those overwhelmed by the loss.
We're providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Also, mental health support through counseling for residents who are feeling anxious and disoriented after losing their homes so suddenly.
And it's not just emotional wounds. Healing here means caring for both the mind and the body.
We're seeing a lot of respiratory symptoms, coughing, runny nose, phlegm, and headaches, as many here were exposed to smoke.
Once vital signs are checked,
머리 아프시니까 약은 좀 드릴게요. 어제랑 똑같은 걸로. 근데 지금 혈압도 높으시고 혈당도 높으셔가지고 이따 검사를 좀 해보셔야 될 것 같아요.
those in need of further care are guided to nearby hospitals for more specialized treatment. Relief services like these offer a critical lifeline, but they're temporary. But rebuilding an entire life from scratch takes time. The government has promised to go all out in support.
The government will do its utmost to provide emergency relief and all necessary administrative and financial support to help them return to their daily lives as quickly as possible.
The voices of these people who lived through what can only be described as apocalyptic, need to be heard now more than ever.
다른 데 안 받아. 킴만 어떻게 해주면. 아이고, 살다가 80평사 처음이시다. 나라에서 도와줘야 되지. 우리 힘으로는 될 수가 없어요. 뭐 맨몸으로 나왔는데 뭐.
From the ashes of Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, a community fights to hold on to memories, to hope, and to each other. 송유진, Arirang News, Andong.
In related news, the United States has vowed to provide full support. while sending condolences for the people who've lost their lives. The State Department released a statement on Thursday local time saying it offers sincere condolence to the Korean people, adding that it mourns the loss of the brave firefighters and many others who have died. It said the U.S. Forces Korea stands ready to provide assistance to help combat the fires and support the affected communities. It also added America stands with its ally during this difficult time, noting that the country has not forgotten Korea's unwavering support during the wildfires in Los Angeles and Hawaii. The Constitutional Court kept its silence on Friday, likely meaning the month of March will pass without the ruling on President Yoon's impeachment case. Our correspondent Woo Soo-young explains what is at stake.
Suspense remains over President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment case as the Constitutional Court deliberates for more than a month. As of Friday, 31 days have passed since Yoon's final trial hearing was held, marking a record in terms of the time taken by the court compared to previous presidential impeachment cases, which took at most 14 days. As the judicial bench typically gives advance notice of at least 2 working days before a ruling, the court is now expected to issue its decision in April, before 2 justices retire mid-month. With ambiguity over the when and what the verdict will be, there's growing tension brewing in political circles as Yoon's impeachment would spark an early presidential election within 2 months. The opposition party is pushing for Yoon's swift removal, as their party leader Lee Jae-myung is currently the pollsters' favourite among presidential hopefuls. On Wednesday, Lee was acquitted in one of his 5 criminal trials, overturning a ruling by a lower court last year that handed Lee a 1-year sentence and a 2-year suspension from office for violating the election law. This cleared a major hurdle to gaining his party's full endorsement for the race. The ruling People Power Party had been hoping for the opposite result, leading to cries of foul against the justice system. There's now even greater pressure directed at the Constitutional Court. The opposition is calling for Yoon's immediate impeachment, while the ruling party is demanding his return to power, as in the case of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, whose impeachment case was dismissed on Monday. Public rallies also continue outside and around the court. Recent polls indicate that 51% of voters want a change of government, while 37% wish to maintain the current administration. Those for and against impeachment also recorded around 58% and 37% respectively, underscoring how closely contested the political environment remains. The survey shows equal 36% support for the ruling and opposition parties, with the PPP gaining 3 percentage points compared to the previous week. As the court's ruling stretches on, expectations for Yoon's impeachment was down by 6 percentage points from last week, while those expecting his return hit 39%.
Amid prolonged uncertainty, one thing remains clear. This will not merely be a constitutional decision, but a ruling that inevitably brings significant political ramifications. Woo Soo-young, Arirang News.
Acting President Han Duck-soo has pledged an immediate and overwhelming response to any North Korean provocation. The pledge came at today's official ceremony to mark the 10th West Sea Defense Day, which honors fallen service members who died defending the West Coast in fatal clashes with North Korea. Referring to North Korea as the most regressive regime in the world, Han asserted that Pyongyang continues to threaten peace on the peninsula and beyond. He also vowed unwavering support for South Korea's fallen heroes, injured service members, and bereaved family members. In light of the somber anniversary today, South Korea's Navy carried out a series of drills this week. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung covers this year's West Sea Defense Day.
Amidst the thin sea fog covering the West Sea, a simulated North Korean vessel crosses the northern limit line on the West Sea moving southward. South Korean Navy ships and personnel are ordered to deploy in combat formation for training.
전투 배치, 훈련, 둘, 셋!
6 naval ships lined up one after another with the 3,600-ton frigate, the RKS Chungnam, at the front, fired guns targeting their simulated maritime target before maneuvering away in different directions. This naval maneuver training in the West Sea is to mark the 10th West Sea Defense Day, a day to remember those who lost their lives in a series of unprovoked attacks by the North near the northern limit line. The day, falling on the fourth Friday of March every year, pays tribute to the 55 fallen sailors and Marines from the Second Battle of Yeonpyeong in 2002, the sinking of ROKS Cheonan, and the shelling of Yeonpyeong-do Island in 2010. In memorial of the fallen, the Navy conducted intensive maneuvering exercises for 3 days until Thursday, simultaneously on the East, West, and South Seas, with some of the exercises open to the press.
The Navy will engrave the spirit of victory shown by the 55 warriors who defended the West Sea in our hearts. And if the enemy provokes again, we will strike back forcefully and firmly protect our seas.
Since the military clashes with North Korea while defending the western maritime border, the South Korean Navy strengthened the combat power of its naval fleets, replacing outdated warships with new frigates equipped with advanced hybrid propulsion and sonar systems.
The ROKS Daejeon was built with our domestic defense technology, and it's especially a core frigate of the fleet with outstanding anti-submarine capabilities.
With the patriotic spirit of the fallen in mind, the Navy vows to firmly safeguard the waters, even today. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
America's major trade partners, Canada and Mexico, have been among the first to respond to the Trump administration's new tariff plan on foreign-made cars, and their reactions stood poles apart. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Earlier this week, President Donald Trump signed off on 25% tariffs on all cars and auto parts imported into the United States. In response, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney called it a direct attack on his country and vowed to respond to Trump's latest tariff policy.
President Trump announced 25% tariffs against our auto industry. And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of, uniform workers. We've announced, of course, retaliatory tariffs. We have other options for those retaliatory tariffs. I have asked for a meeting, I will convene rather, a meeting of the Canada-US cabinet tomorrow to discuss our trade options.
Carney said Canada's longtime bilateral relationship with the U.S. involving the economy, security, and military cooperation is over. Instead, he vowed Canada would respond with retaliatory tariffs that will have maximum impact on the U.S. On the other side of the U.S. border, Mexico is negotiating for an exemption for its critical auto industry. Speaking from Washington after holding talks with U.S. officials, Mexico's Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard said negotiation talks are ongoing to ensure that Mexico gets preferential treatment. The minister said that with the recent tariff policies of the U.S. administration, Mexico must protect jobs and economic activity in the country. While Mexico is seeking a more peaceful approach to Trump's tariff policies, both Canada and the European Union have been looking to fight the U.S. president's tariffs. In response, Trump took to his social media platform Truth Social on Thursday and said that larger tariffs could be placed on the EU and Canada if they work jointly to do economic harm to the USA. While the EU delayed its first set of retaliatory tariffs, including a 50% tariff on U.S. bourbon, Trump threatened to impose a 200% tariff on all wines and other alcoholic products from the EU if the bloc went ahead with tariffs. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Russia's Vladimir Putin has spoken of cooperating with North Korea to end its war in Ukraine. Bae Yoon-ji covers this latest comment and more.
As U.S. President Donald Trump seeks to broker an end to the 3-year war in Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin has suggested that countries other than the United States could be involved in the peace process, specifically mentioning North Korea. Speaking about efforts to settle the war during his visit to Russia's northwestern port of Murmansk on Friday, some of the other countries he named were China, India, Brazil, South Africa, and the member states of BRICS. The Russian leader also proposed the idea of putting Ukraine under a form of temporary administration of the United Nations as part of a peace deal, for new elections and the signing of key accords with the aim of reaching a settlement.
We could discuss under the auspices of the UN, with the US, with European countries, and of course with our partners and friends, the possibility of conducting temporary governance in Ukraine.
Putin's comments come a day after a senior Russian diplomat reportedly said they're preparing for Kim Jong-un's visit to the country. According to Russia's TASS news agency, Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko said Thursday that this was discussed during his visit to Pyongyang 2 weeks ago, without providing details on when the visit might take place. Just last week, Putin's top security advisor Sergei Shoigu met Kim in Pyongyang, where the two sides reaffirmed their willingness to unconditionally uphold a major mutual defense treaty signed last year that pledges mutual assistance if either faces aggression. Eyes are now on whether the North Korean leader's visit to Russia will take place within this year, with some experts even saying that it could happen as early as May, on the 80th anniversary of Russia's Victory Day, which marks the Soviet Union's triumph over Nazi Germany in World War II. 배은지, Arirang News.
A 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck central Myanmar on Friday, also causing damage in neighboring Thailand's capital city of Bangkok. At least 20 people were confirmed killed in Myanmar and 3 in Thailand, but the death toll is feared to rise into the hundreds. States of emergency have been declared in both countries. The United States Geological Survey said the quake had a shallow depth of about 6 miles. Tremors were also felt in China's Yunnan province.
It felt much chilly this morning, with Seoul plunging to just 3.7 degrees Celsius, which was about 10 degrees lower than yesterday morning. Temperatures will plummet further than usual this weekend, with Seoul only rising to 8 degrees during the day. The dry weather warning, which was issued for the east coast of Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, has been relieved to an advisories. But the dry weather warnings and advisories are still in place in many regions. With strong wind advisories issued as well, please take extra precautions not to cause any fires. Tomorrow, Seoul, Gwangju, and Gyeongju will start off at 1 degree and Daegu at 3 degrees. Highs will move up to 10 degrees around the country. There's rain or snow forecast with around 5 millimeters in Seoul, eastern parts of Gyeonggi-do Province, and western parts of Gangwon-do Province tomorrow afternoon. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.